All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and this is the show where we talk about hard things and how we can get through them with mental and physical fitness. Welcome back. And today we have a very special guest who does not live in Florida anymore, which I just recently learned. Today's guest is Megan Dahl. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Meg, you used to be a member of CrossFit Hyde Park.
Correct.
All right. So, shout out Hyde Park. I actually talked with Mike Ackley.
Yes.
Yes. I talked with Mike a couple weeks ago. His episode is dropping, I think, next week. And so we had a great conversation and we've been talking a little. It seems like an awesome, awesome dude. And so, do you have a new gym that you are in for Oregon?
Yes. Roseburg CrossFit is where I'm at now.
All right. So, shout out Roseburg CrossFit.
Yeah.
All right. So, you've been involved with CrossFit for about 7+ years.
Yes.
Okay. And you said that fitness actually helps you more from a mental health type of standpoint, kind of from like that
Absolutely.
mentality piece. And the hard things we do in the gym also help with the hard things we do outside of the gym.
Yes.
Right. So, and I think that's where I kind of first want to start our conversation today is, you know, on this show, I love to talk about hard things, right? Because we're all going to experience challenges in our lives, whether it's moving from Florida to Oregon. There was probably some challenges involved
Absolutely.
in that whole process, right? And these are challenges that we aren't necessarily ready for, right? Like they just kind of like hit and you're like, okay, like I have to react to this challenge, right? So what do you do when challenges hit you to actually get through those challenges?
Well, yeah, I definitely will say I don't always handle challenges with grace.
Mhm.
It's not easy. I The first thing that comes to mind is definitely like moving across the US.
Yeah,
It was
literally across the US. Like, that is
yeah.
full from
Yeah,
Florida
and
to
it's
Oregon.
like I didn't anticipate the adversity we'd go through living in Tampa financially. With my husband in school, he couldn't work at all because
Mhm,
he had to focus solely on that, and I was working part-time. So, like, the income, we barely had any, and we know how expensive it is to live in
mhm.
Tampa. So, I was, like, looking 8, 9 months in advance, and I'm, like, stressing myself out thinking, like, "How are we gonna pay our bills because we're only getting a certain amount of money." So I kind of just like stepped back and I try to take one day at a time
Mhm,
because if you start thinking about the future and like all of the things that are coming up, it just makes it 10 times worse.
mhm.
So, I mean, luckily, out of all of that, I was able to land a side hustle doing, videos for Amazon. So I was able to
Really?
bring in an extra couple $1,000s a month.
Mhm.
Honestly, if I wouldn't have done that, I don't really know how we would have survived.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then having 2 children, and we decided to get a puppy for our kids for Christmas. Paying to get our stuff moved across the United States. We had our truck shipped, and then just driving across the US with 2 kiddos is not easy at all, but
Mhm,
I think what I try to do is, like, take one thing at a time, even if
mhm.
it's one day at a time, 30 minutes at a time, and try and, like, get those challenges, take on those challenges, do well at them, and then move on. Because it's like, if you think about the big picture, sometimes it's just too overwhelming.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't know if you do this, but if you're in, like, a CrossFit workout and say you have to do, like, 50 wall balls,
Right.
right? I try not to think about, like, 50 wall balls. I try to think about, like, 5.
Yes.
Right? Like, where it's like, "Alright, if I can do 5, then I can do 5 more." And I can just
Yes.
kinda keep doing this where we break down these massive challenges into these small little absorbable, I'm not sure if that's a word, absorbable pieces that we can actually attack.
Yes.
Yeah. That
It
was
definitely makes it easier. I mean, I know how that is. Sometimes in a CrossFit workout, it's like you have 5 rounds of, one of the things is 20 burpees, and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I have to do 100 burpees?" And you're like, because you do the 5 rounds, and I'm like, "Why did I do that?"
Yeah.
Because that just sounds terrible, and then but if you just chunk it up in little pieces, it's
Mhm.
attainable.
That's I totally know that feeling because it's like you see the workout, and this could probably be connected to any challenge that we face outside of the gym as well, where the challenge gets presented to you and you're almost like numb for like for like a couple seconds where
Yeah,
you're realizing like, holy shit, I gotta do 100 burpees.
yeah,
Like imagine how I'm gonna feel at like 34. Like that's gonna hurt. Like imagine what I'm
yeah,
gonna feel at like 60. Right? So it's like this small progression to this larger picture. And in that, whether you want to call it a buffer zone, we have to make a decision.
mhm.
Right. And so that's what I'm kind of curious in from like your perspective, what gets you to make that decision to like go forward with trying to solve that challenge?
Like in life or in the gym?
I want to hear both because I could probably use the help in both areas of my life. And I think the people listening could also use it too.
Right. Oh, well, honestly, with CrossFit, it's hard. Like you tell yourself, you're like, I really want to give up right now.
Mhm,
But the best thing about CrossFit is the community.
mhm.
Everyone else is suffering around you. If
Yeah.
you like give up, I mean, I don't know. It's just, there's something about being around people that are doing the same thing as you. You're going to push yourself harder than you would if you were doing it at home. Because I
Mhm.
guarantee if I was at home doing that, probably would have stopped or took a massive break before I started again.
Yes.
So I would say definitely in CrossFit, the community
Mhm,
is what is amazing and it pushes you. And that's probably what gets me through
mhm.
challenging workouts for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. I mean, this morning I know we were actually doing wall balls and we had to do I can't remember exactly what the progression was. It was like every 3 minutes we had to do a 10-calorie bike, then we had to do 20 wall balls and 50 double unders
Oh, yeah.
and spicy. It was heart rate was juicing. And I remember like third round bending over and like trying to catch my breath like as I walked up to the wall ball and like the two people right next to me were doing the same thing, and it made me just feel good.
Yes.
Right? It's like, all right, like I'm not weird. I'm not struggling that much. It's like, all right, this is the normal thing. It's like, all right, I'm supposed to be feeling this.
Right.
Right? So yeah, that definitely does help. So what about the challenges outside of CrossFit? Right? How do you make that
I,
decision to get through them?
well, I have no choice, especially like being a parent now. It's
Mhm.
like
Ooh,
you
yes.
just figure it out. Like honestly, it being a parent is very challenging, and you if you don't just roll with the punches, it's it's gonna be a rough ride. And it is a rough ride regardless. But yeah, I definitely for my kiddos, they push me to be better.
Mhm,
I'm constantly thinking about the way I react to things, and I don't want them seeing me reacting
mhm,
certain ways all the time because it's easy to raise your voice. It's easy to get upset with your kids.
mhm,
And I really try and not do that because I don't want them to start thinking that's normal to react that way.
mhm,
And then that's how they start acting. So it's definitely, I think about my kids a lot when I
mhm,
am getting through things. And it's just not easy, but it's being a parent definitely has changed me for sure.
mhm. How did it change you?
Well, I completely changed as a person. I am not the same person I was before I had kids, which
Mhm,
is sort of sad. Like I miss the old Megan. Like I don't know, I definitely my mental health has changed. I think your chemistry changes
mhm,
after having kids. So that has been tough. But
mhm,
yeah, I have definitely it's weird to explain, but I have definitely changed a lot as a person
mhm,
becoming a parent. And I think a lot of it is like the mental part of it.
mhm.
Definitely challenging.
Well, I mean, take my advice, who isn't I'm not a parent at all, right? Yeah. I think I think it's interesting to think about the mental aspect to becoming a parent,
Mhm.
right? Because at that point, you have a greater responsibility than just yourself,
Yeah.
right? It's almost like all of your responsibilities double,
Yes.
and that can be overwhelming.
Yes.
And that
Definitely.
right, and that's what I like to call life weight, right? It's something in life that is a resistance that we have to somehow figure out how to get through,
Mhm.
right? And I think one of the things you said that I want to highlight, which is this ridiculously rational and logical approach to getting through any hard shit in our lives, is I sometimes don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And that I think that's one of the things that, like, if people are ever like, hey, like I'm struggling to be consistent or I'm struggling to be more disciplined, it's like, what if you eliminated your choices, right? If you don't want to eat chips or drink soda, stop buying them.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to stop watching Netflix, delete your account. Right?
Right.
If you want to tune down your social media use, put a limit on it or just delete the app.
Mhm.
Right? Where I feel like we could do such a I feel like we could improve our ability to respond to challenge if we actually limited the choices that we had when the challenge hit us.
Right.
Right? It would almost like pinball us back into the behavior that we want.
Yes.
Right. And I think one of the things you said too, which is when we were talking about challenge, and I'm curious about your perspective on this because me and my dad talk about this a lot, where like we do hard things because they're hard, and that's what like makes it worth it.
Yes.
And I don't think I think I'm slowly getting more to this point where I'm like, all right, like I really get that. Like it's really instilling in my moral fabric. So I'm just curious about what is your views on that ideology?
Yeah, being challenged and going through difficult times, it truly makes you, I think, a better person.
Mhm,
If you're complacent in life, I feel like I was that way before we moved to Florida.
mhm,
I'm like, oh, I mean, I have a great job. Don't get me
mhm,
wrong. Like, I'm an eco tech, but I was never like striving to do something more. My husband, he's like a complete like lifelong learner.
mhm.
If he could be in school the rest of his life, that's what he would do because he just loves learning. And for me, I'm like, I'm done with school. I did my bachelor's degree. I'm proud
Mhm,
of myself, and that's all I want to do. But after moving to Florida, like, and starting my side hustle, and then I was at CrossFit Hyde Park and I got my level 1 and level 2
mhm,
coaching there, which pushed me more than I was ready for. But I'm
mhm,
like, I know how to coach CrossFit now.
mhm,
And I like, part of me is like, I love doing ultrasound, but I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to do that the rest of my life because I feel like I was made to do more. And
mhm.
it's definitely like even coming on this podcast, just like I'm uncomfortable, but I know that I can do it.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like I definitely think it's a huge thing to push yourself, challenge
Mhm.
yourself, go through those difficult times in life, or you're just, you know, skating through life and it's a breeze. And what's the fun in that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, there was this video I watched once of Jim Rohn, and for anybody who doesn't know who Jim Rohn is, he's maybe the father of personal development or the person who really kind of put this type of work on the map, and in the video, he talked about we have the choice to live our lives very comfortable.
Yeah,
And like it's very easy to do that, right? There's a Chipotle 10 minutes down the road and I can sit on my ass and order it to my door.
absolutely.
Right? And to be completely authentic, I've done that multiple times.
Right.
So that is completely available, right? We have the option of, in Jim Rohn, the way he describes it, he's like, you can stay under the blanket and be warm and be cozy, right? It's readily available.
Hmm.
And there's also another way to live and to do this. And he really connected it to adventure and experience and going through the uncomfortable things to actually make life more rewarding.
Yes.
And I think there is this really cool connection between the rewards we get in life and what we decided to do to get those rewards, right? The uncomfortable, painful, embarrassing, insecure, challenging things that we pushed ourselves through
Mhm.
that gave us a positive reward on the end,
Yes.
right? Like today, right? You were nervous to come on the episode, right?
Yeah.
People are gonna listen to this and they're gonna be like, "Oh shit, like that actually helped me," right?
Yeah.
I actually like I enjoyed Megan's talk, like that was cool, right? That uncomfortability, whatever you want to call it, right, is gonna lead to a greater reward.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where we can ground ourselves in hard things, whatever's hard in your lot in your life, because I think challenge and hard is a relative term, right? Find those things and then do them, right?
Yes.
Because those rewards are going to compound over time, and you're gonna basically, what I like to say, train your mind like a muscle.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna condition it to start to really experience, I think, all the dualities of life.
Absolutely.
Mm, I like that. That's deep. One of the things you said was no stage lasts forever.
Yes.
And
I think of my kids whenever I say that too.
so what makes you think of your kids when you say that?
Because when you have children, like, you have all these stages that are coming at you as they grow.
Mhm,
All of them have great things about them, but all of them have challenges, and they're all different. Like, when you have an infant, they're the cutest and it just gives you more love than you've ever experienced, but then you're also up in the middle of the night, pretty much all night. You're feeding around the clock, you're changing diapers
mhm,
at least 10 times a day. And then they grow into toddlers and they're screaming at you and crying because you didn't let them try and tie their shoe, or
mhm,
it's just silly things. But I try to remind myself that when my kids are crawling in bed with me every single night because they're afraid of the dark, that it's not going to last forever. They're
mhm,
going to not ever want to give me a hug and lay in bed with me ever again when they become, seven,
mhm,
8 teenagers. So you try to embrace the hard because you're
mhm.
gonna miss it when it's gone.
Ooh, embrace the hard because you're gonna miss it when it's gone.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, I tell myself, I'm like, I would never miss this because I want my sleep. But I also know when my kids don't come to bed with me in the middle of the night anymore, I'm probably gonna miss it.
Mhm. I'm writing this down because that is such an interesting way to look at it. Embrace the hard, you're gonna miss it when it's gone.
Yeah.
That makes me think too about, we seem to get more joy from the process of building something, right? Say you wanna right, building a family,
Yeah.
then, like, the rewards are going to come and we're gonna experience them and they're gonna be cool, right? And they're gonna be cool moments. Yet those rewards are gonna go away eventually,
Yeah.
right? And we're gonna get right back into the process,
Mhm.
right? And it's almost like, I mean, I think of life from like a very like macro perspective where it's like, well, the whole thing is actually just one big process. And then
Yes.
the reward is, I don't know, whatever you want to believe, once we pass on, right?
Right.
That's technically the reward, I guess, from my perspective. So it's really this understanding of like this is the work, like the daily stuff that we do. That is the process that gets us these small little rewards along this journey,
Mhm.
right? What would you say, Meg, is a process that you are currently in that you're working towards a certain reward?
Well, I actually haven't told many people this, but
Breaking news.
I'm breaking news.
Breaking news.
I am actually pregnant right now.
There we go. That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. I have to say I am struggling. I am 8 weeks pregnant and feel absolutely terrible. Like, nauseous all day. It's it's so weird because I go to the gym 5 or 6 days a week. I
Mhm,
absolutely love CrossFit,
mhm,
but it is a challenge for me to go there right now because I just feel awful. And I do feel good when I get there, but as soon as I'm done working out, I'm like, "Oh, I feel like crap again."
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think I'm really trying to embrace this pregnancy because
Mhm,
I know it's our last child.
mhm,
And my son, who was my last pregnancy, he was an accident, so I don't think I fully embraced the pregnancy. So
mhm,
I'm definitely trying to really cherish every moment, even though right now it is so hard. I'm not gonna
mhm.
lie.
So it's we do hard things because that's what why we do hard things, right? That is the
Yeah.
joy of the process, right?
Yes. I am yeah, that's definitely my current challenge I'm in right now.
Okay.
And obviously we did it to ourselves and that is what we want.
Mhm.
So we are very excited. Like
Yeah.
I'm just I'm hoping in the next 3 or 4 weeks I'm starting to feel alive again
Mhm,
and motivated, and I told myself too, I'm like, I'm going to eat better this pregnancy
mhm,
because I want to be healthy. And then you just feel awful and you're trying to eat anything that just makes you feel better.
mhm.
And I literally don't care what it is.
Well, I personally cannot really relate to that just because 'cause I've never been pregnant.
Right.
So, any of the our female listeners can probably, if they have gone through that experience, right? That's probably a very commonly shared, memory, right? And
Yes.
I think, one of the things I remember you had said when we kinda talked earlier was this idea of giving yourself grace,
Yeah.
right? And is that hard?
Yes, I was talking to a couple girls at the gym yesterday, one who has like a 4-month-old and then the other one is pregnant. And I was just like, it's so hard for me to come in here right now because I just don't feel good. And then we were talking about how when you get further along in your pregnancy, your body's changing, you're gaining
Mhm,
weight. It's easy to become frustrated with not being able to do what you could do before,
mm,
like a pull up or
mhm,
even a burpee, like your belly gets big and you can't even go all the way down to the ground,
mhm.
or a handstand push-up, you're like too heavy.
Can you do a handstand push-up when you're pregnant? I'm trying to think, like
You can.
you can?
I was watching Tia Toomey when she was pregnant, and she's
Oh,
just doing
yeah.
strict handstand push-ups from the open, and I'm just like, well, first of all, I could never do that pregnant. I could try, but yeah,
I mean, if you're
I
doing pull-ups, you're technically doing pull-ups for 2 people,
that's true.
right? Like, you're
It's like a
doubling
weight vest.
it's a weight vest.
I always say that I have a weight vest on when I'm pregnant.
Oh my gosh, the biological weight vest.
Yes. But yeah, like giving yourself grace through that, working out, CrossFit, and being
Mhm,
pregnant is huge. Otherwise,
mhm.
it becomes frustrating because
Yeah.
your body's changing, you're growing, and
Mhm.
then no energy. Although I did have a couple PRs while I was pregnant, like 32 weeks pregnant. I think I PR'd in my snatch.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I would like to see a list of women who have PR'd in a snatch while pregnant. I bet you that list is
Well,
very low.
I think it's pretty common to be stronger when you're pregnant. I think the
Really?
testosterone, yeah, it's pretty common, but yeah, that's definitely the best part is I think with gaining weight and the hormones, like you're
Mhm.
just stronger.
Wow. Like
Yeah.
superhuman.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, one of the things that I've I just recently thought about this. Actually, yesterday I was in a group session and we started talking about compassion
Mhm.
and how we can give compassion to others quickly, right? If somebody's struggling with something, yet we tend to struggle more with giving compassion to ourselves,
Yes, absolutely.
right? And it was like this weird thing where I was like, oh, I was like, it was like gross. Like it
Yeah.
like it made me kind of feel weird because I could think about how I talk to myself sometimes,
Mhm.
right? And you can think about the internal dialogue and the thoughts that sometimes go through your head, and it's like, "Geez, I would never tell that to anybody else,"
Right.
right? And so, I mean, what are your ideas about self-compassion?
Yeah, I that was one of the things that I wrote down is how easy it is to get in your own head and
Mhm,
like it's easy to become negative.
mhm,
and you're like thinking all these negative thoughts. And I do it sometimes and don't realize it, but when I do realize it, I really try to turn my thinking around into a positive light, even if it's you're just like in a shitty situation.
Mhm,
If you can think about the things that are positive out of
mhm,
it,
mhm,
it changes your whole mindset. Like I've heard so many times, like if you just think in a positive light instead of negative, it changes the whole outcome of your situation. Even if it doesn't change the physical outcome, at least in your head, you're like, you found a positive spin on it.
mhm. Yeah, I literally had a friend of mine text me last night, and she said, "With the right mindset, you can find a gift in everything."
Yeah.
And and that's something where, like, I like to use this rule called the 10% rule, where no matter what happens, no matter what challenge we experience, there's 10% of that experience that I'm gonna hold on to, that I'm actually gonna allow to help me in
Hmm.
some way. Right? Like I've talked about like losing people I love, right? Like my grandfather passed away and it was like, all right, what's the 10% that I can take from that experience that is going to help me? Well, I started to value love more. I started to value relationships more because he was married for almost 60 years,
Wow.
right? And so it was like this shift where I'd never seen that before. The experience happened and then I had conditioned my mind enough time to be like, all right, what's the 10% in it? And then I
Yeah.
found it and I was like, all right, I can get through this a little bit better.
Yes.
Right. But
Absolutely.
yeah. All right, Meg, I want to ask you one more question.
All
All right.
right.
This is our last one. This is a powerful one.
Oh, geez. All right.
What's a secret you know that no one else knows that has helped you live a stronger life?
Oh, man. That's a good question. You're putting me on the spot right now. A secret.
What's a secret?
I don't know if I have any secrets.
That's good. It means you're honest.
Yeah. I try to be pretty honest.
Maybe that's the secret.
Yeah, I definitely have learned that being transparent,
Mm,
a lot of people always put on this face that everything's okay, and I have realized friendships mean more to me when I can just be real. Like I've come to the gym a couple times when I was at CrossFit Hyde Park. There's not a lot of moms there. I feel like
mhm,
the community in Tampa is more like people that are in relationships and they decide not to have kids. There's not I
mhm,
feel like I just didn't run into a lot of people that had kids in
mhm,
Tampa. But there was one mom there and there was multiple times that I cried to her because I was
mhm,
having such a hard time. And
mhm,
I really think that it helps me to just be transparent and let people know that I am really struggling. It
mhm.
helps me to like get it out to the world, to my friends that I know will just listen to me and not give an opinion. And I feel like I was actually just talking about that the other day. Maybe that is my secret. Be more transparent, open up to your friends, and you'll
Mhm,
find definitely deeper, meaningful relationships if you do that. Because I have friendships that, it's like surface level talk,
mhm,
and they aren't as meaningful to me, those friendships. So
mhm.
I definitely, yeah, that's the best thing I can think of right now on the fly.
You found your secret. You literally talked yourself into the secret.
Yes.
Well, Meg, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. We covered a lot of stuff that I think to your secret at the end is very transparent, right? It's very authentic, right? We're not trying to tell people how great we are,
Yeah.
right? We're just no, this is us, right? Here's the things that we struggle with, and here's how we're getting through them.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you did a great job of that. So I really appreciate your time, your expertise on these areas, and hopefully you're not as nervous as you were when we started.
I'm not. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate like your flexibility with me. I know that we had a couple meetings you're supposed to have, and then obviously I forgot to tell you I moved to Oregon. So
Just so everybody knows this, I thought Meg was still in Tampa. I thought she lived like 10 minutes down the road. And so she says, "Yeah, we're on for today." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm waiting for you." And then she's
yeah,
like,
like
"Oh, I
30 minutes.
She's like, "Oh, I moved to Oregon, by the way." I'm like, "Holy shit, that's literally like the farthest place I could even imagine that's still in the US."
Yeah. It's like 8:30 and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have a couple hours to get ready." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Because when you sent that, you're like, "Yeah, did you get the link?" I'm like, "Yeah." You're like, "Does it work?" I'm like, "Oops."
I was looking at the time and you were like 11 a.m. and in my head I'm like, she knows it's 11 a.m. right now, right?
Right.
Like,
Gosh.
well, nonetheless, Meg, we did it. We finally
Yes.
managed to get together. And so thank you again so much for your time today. This was awesome. I really, really, really appreciated it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And to everybody listening, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully, you guys got some value out of our conversation today with Meg. And as always, just keep doing hard things. Use mental fitness, physical fitness to get through them. Be authentic. Take things one step at a time. And challenges everywhere. And the better we can get at managing it, the better we're going to be able to get through it. So thank you guys so much for your time, your energy. And as always, have a great week. And we'll talk to you guys soon.